Well, I've made my way back into the movie theaters to see some new releases, and we're going to talk about a few of those here. And the others, well, you can get on demand or on DVD before the end of the year. Let's talk movies. Hey everybody, Dan here, and this is Dan Reviews It. We've got a movie review for four recent theatrical films, and we're going to talk about The Croods, A New Age, The War with Grandpa, Kajillionaire, and Honest Thief. All of these hit theaters within the last month or two and are now either available on demand or the DVD will be out before the end of the year. So you can see these in your house in 2020, even if you can't get out to the theaters. I saw a couple of these at the theater, and a couple of them I saw at home. As you can see, I'm at a movie theater right now. I do all of my movie reviews here at this point, but this is a second run theater that I work for, so we actually haven't gotten any of these movies. Most of the pandemic, we've been running a lot of old movies, which is a lot of fun, but I did want to see some new movies in the theater. I just did a recent video about the movie Tenet, and I drove about 45 minutes away to see that film because I knew I wanted to see Tenet on the big screen, and we weren't going to be playing it here. So I decided to just do a triple feature, go all out, and see three new movies in the theater. So I saw The War with Grandpa and Honest Thief in the theaters, and then Croods: A New Age is on demand right now. You can do the whole Amazon Cinema thing and spend I think it's $20 or whatever to rent it. Kind of like they were doing at the beginning of the pandemic. They sort of pushed all their brand new releases that way. And so Croods was out in theaters for about a month. It's still in theaters that are open, but you can get it on demand as well. And then Kajillionaire has been on demand for a little while, but the DVD will be out soon as well. So I figured we'll throw that on to this review. So before I get started, please go ahead and subscribe below and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so you can get the notifications when I present new videos on YouTube. And of course, like this video and any others on my channel that you happen to like, and comment below as well. I love interacting with you guys, and it's great to hear your take on these movies, or are you interested in seeing these movies if you haven't yet, or what have you. So let's get started here. We're going to start first actually with The Croods: A New Age, because of the four, it's by far the most successful at the box office. It opened Thanksgiving weekend to almost $10 million, which in 2020 during the pandemic is pretty impressive, to be honest. It shows that there is still kind of an appetite out there for new movies on the big screen. But like I said, you can now see it at home on your smaller screen. So let's talk about The Croods: A New Age. This is a movie that I certainly didn't expect The Croods to have a sequel. It came out in 2013 and it was fine. I gave it a B. It was a good movie, some great voice talent with Ryan Reynolds and Emma Stone and Nicolas Cage. But why are we getting a Croods sequel? Do we need a Croods sequel? Where is this coming from? This actually was on the books for a little while after the first one came out, and then some changes internally within DreamWorks sort of shelved that for a little bit, and then it got revived in 2017. But all the voice talent was still, up for it. We got Cloris Leachman back, we got Catherine Keener back, Clark Duke, and we add a couple of new people to the rotation as well. And basically, if you remember The Croods at all, or if you never saw it, they're cave people, so they are doing and experiencing cave things, and that's, I don't remember much about the first movie, to be honest. I just know they're cavemen. But you don't actually have to. I didn't rewatch the first one to be able to enjoy A New Age. But essentially, the Croods here run into a rival family called the Bettermans. Clever, I thought, with the name. Maybe a little too on the nose, but this is the Stone Age, so we're going to have pretty obvious names for things. So the Bettermans, and they actually remember Guy, the Ryan Reynolds character, when he was a kid because they knew his parents. We get a slight backstory in the opening scene where we see Guy losing his parents and sort of struggling to, find a place to live and counting the different moon cycles since he lost his parents and all this until he finds Eep, voiced by Emma Stone, and her family, which now we know as the Croods. So that led into the first movie. So now you're really all caught up, if you've not seen the first movie yet. But the Bettermans are voiced by Leslie Mann and Peter Dinklage, and they have a daughter called Dawn, who is voiced by Kelly Marie Tran. And so basically, we now have a fight between the Croods and the Bettermans for power. Who really has the better thing going? Let's explore it and find out. Of course, some members of the Crude family are really, really entranced by their advanced home and their advanced food and all of these advanced ideas, like people sleeping in a bed instead of in a pile and a huddle. And then, of course, Nicolas Cage as Grug. If you saw the first movie, he's a bit hard-headed, and he was very, very unhappy by meeting the Bettermans. And all the while, Guy was going to propose to Eep and basically leave the nest. Grug found out about that right before they met the Bettermans and had some ideas to share about that. So, look, these movies are, I don't think, nearly as good as a lot of the Disney or Pixar movies out there, or even a lot of the DreamWorks movies. They're not as good as How to Train Your Dragon. They're not as good as Shrek. But there is something charming about this family, and certainly the voice acting does not hurt. I mean, Ryan Reynolds, since the Croods, has gone on to do voice acting, obviously, in Detective Pikachu, and he narrates a game show on ABC. I mean, he's really gotten into sort of the voice work thing. And Nicolas Cage, we've seen before and since doing voice work in different movies, such as Astro Boy. And you really do sort of get, I mean, they're a little bit stock, these characters, but you do get a sense of who they are and why they're the way they are, and all of that. Leslie Mann and Peter Dinklage are great as the Bettermans. Very, very funny. I laughed actually a lot in this movie. I have to say, Cloris Leachman has some funny lines as the grandmother. I really, of all the movies I'm reviewing today, this one, well, I mean, Honest Thief isn't supposed to be a comedy. Kajillionaire is sort of a dark, dark comedy. So, all right, maybe me saying I laughed the most in this movie of the week doesn't say too much, but I was actually surprised because I thought this was going to be really stupid. Again, like, I gave the Croods a B, but like, it's not one I've ever watched again. I've never really gone back and been like, oh, I wonder what the Croods are up to. No, I didn't. So I was a bit surprised at how much I did enjoy this movie. There's some tension as we get more into the storyline. I don't do spoilers, even if it's for the Croods, so I'm not going to say any more than that. But there's definitely some tension that Nicolas Cage and Peter Dinklage's characters really come to a head at one point, and then they discover there's a lot more at play than just their macho manliness. As things progress. But look, of all the animated movies that have come out this year, because of course, Disney has shelved a lot of theirs to next year. They will be releasing Soul next week on their Disney Plus, but obviously I haven't seen that yet. But this is certainly better than the Trolls movie. It's better than Scooby-Doo. I found myself really enjoying this movie, and it's a surprise to me more than anybody, I think. So, look, I'm not going to grade it super high. It is a movie that doesn't need to exist. I mean, it really is shocking that they made a Croods 2. But it is amusing, and they've definitely taken these characters into a different setting and given them different things to do. It's certainly not a rehash of the first one, although there are some similar themes, but of course, that's with any sequel. You got to kind of play the hits at least a little bit. For a movie that no one was asking for, I think you could do a lot worse than The Croods: A New Age. The animation is fine. It's not amazing, but I read that a lot of the animators actually had to finish during the pandemic in their own homes. So, it's maybe a little more scattershot than some of the other animated films would have been. But for all intents and purposes, The Croods: A New Age is just fine. I give it the same grade as its predecessor. I give The Croods: A New Age a B. I'm very surprised. For me, it's the best animated movie of the year, other than I guess Onward. But I think I gave Onward a B too. I liked it a little more than this, but I don't know. It was Pixar, so maybe I was a little more disappointed in Onward. I was expecting great things. I got pretty good. Here, I was expecting horrible and got pretty good. So there you go. All right, let's move on here. Enough of the Croods. So The War with Grandpa's next. This is actually the first movie I saw in my triple feature. So I did see this theatrically, but you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray before the end of the year. This stars Robert De Niro in a PG role. This is a family film, and basically this grandfather, Robert De Niro, Ed is his name. He is flying solo these days. His wife has passed, and he gets injured, so he has to basically move in with his kids and subsequently his grandkids. And he takes his grandkids' room, Peter, moving him up to the attic, the spooky attic, which he doesn't want. And Peter here is played by Oakes Fegley, who you probably don't know, but you may know his brother, because his brother plays the lead role in Timmy Failure, which is one of my favorite movies of the year. But I actually have seen the kid in this movie in a couple of things. He was in The Goldfinch, and he was also in Pete's Dragon. He played Pete, if you saw the newer version of Pete's Dragon from a few years ago. So he's been around for a few years, but the Fegley family, I feel like, is pretty talented, because I love that Timmy Failure movie. But the parents here are played by a nearly unrecognizable Uma Thurman. I don't know if she's had a bunch of work done or whatever, but I was about 3/4 of the movie through, and I was like, I think that's Uma Thurman, and sure enough, it is. And then Rob Riggle plays the father. Can't really miss him. And then they have a younger daughter as well, who is obsessed with Christmas, and she's got her birthday coming up. She wants a Christmas themed party. It's never actually established in this movie that it's around Christmas time. It really isn't. It's very weird. I could never figure out, okay, is this girl just obsessed with Christmas, or is it actually December when this movie takes place? And they never say. So I don't know. I mean, there's no Christmas tree up in their house. It's just, but she's obsessed with Christmas. So I don't know. That was something they didn't really explore. But you also have a group of people as Robert De Niro's old buddies, Christopher Walken and Cheech Marin and Jane Seymour. But anyway, because Peter is so angry about his grandfather taking over his room, he starts a war with Grandpa, and it's a secretive war where they sort of play pranks on each other and this and that. And, that's pretty much the movie. It is a family film, so you can, I don't do spoilers, but you can imagine no one actually dies here, but I'm not sure that they wouldn't with some of these stunts that are performed here. It's not quite Jackass level, but some of the things that happen, I was like, okay. And I saw this, I was alone in the theater, so I was able to kind of show my distaste for some of the stunts out loud, and I was just like, okay, that wouldn't happen, or okay, he would break a hip there, whatever. This movie is okay. I did actually laugh a lot in this movie, and I'm not sure how much of that was just being in a movie theater for the first time and really just seeing a movie I have never seen before on the big screen, for the first time in 6 months or 9 months or whatever. I'm sure that was part of it, because I was in a great mood. Who wouldn't be their first time out back to the movie theater? But is this movie actually good? Is debatable. I would say it is probably average. I mean, I certainly laughed, but it just isn't really in the realm of realism at all. It's some family live action movies are sort of set in everyday life, and all the consequences are real, and all the things that happen could really happen. This is a very, very cartoony, exaggerated version of things that could happen. So, a lot of it is not, I think, good messages for kids. Like if you're a kid Peter's age and you're like, oh, cool, I can, if I'm mad at somebody in my family for doing something I don't like, I can just go to war with them and cover their floor with marbles so they just fall on their back and their ass. Okay, cool. Like I think the messages they're sending with this movie are horrible, and at the same time, this Peter kid, he's not likable. Like you can understand that he's upset because his grandfather took over his room, but he just, even on top of that, he's just a jerk of a kid. And then you feel kind of bad for Robert De Niro, but then you're like, well, wait, now he's encouraging it and saying, okay, if you want a war, you got one. Like it just, look, you don't have a movie, I guess, if those things don't fall into place, but I just can't get behind the concept of this movie, I guess. But that being said, like I said, it is actually really funny. The acting is good. This Fegley kid is really cute and really funny, and everybody honestly is doing an okay job. I really thought it would be De Niro phoning it in again. He did not. Him, Christopher Walken, and Cheech Marin, are kind of doing their little side things, a little mafioso type of thing, which is funny for the adults. I think the kids, won't really get it, but it's funny for the adults in the audience. I thought this movie overall was okay. I will leave The War with Grandpa with a C plus. Very funny, but boy, those themes, man. I can't imagine wanting your kids to do any of this stuff in this movie. Like it's a little Home Alone esque, I guess, with some of the pranks he's pulling, but they're they're bandits trying to get in the house and steal stuff. Here, it's your grandfather, dude. Like, are you joking? So anyway, I can recommend it slightly, but it's dumb. You have to know that going into it. All right, so up next, let's talk about Kajillionaire. This is one of the critically acclaimed films of the year. However, it's one that on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics are up here and the audience is like down here. Not quite down here, but they're like middle of the road. I didn't pull the actual numbers, but it's something in the like, critics have it in like the 90 range or something, 89%, and the audience not so much, down more towards the 50% range. So essentially, this is a crime, I guess, dramedy. I think it's more of a drama, but there's certainly some comedic elements to it. And it stars Evan Rachel Wood rather as Old Dolio, and she comes from a crime family, a small time, more of a looting family and a scamming family and con artists rather than like big capers here. And she basically was named from a homeless man that they gave a lottery ticket to, that they hoped if he won, they would give them some of the money if they named their daughter after him. So that's how she got the name Old Dolio. And that basically tells you everything you really need to know about this family. They are scumbags. They are just, petty criminals, and they do not bring any good to society whatsoever. However, about a third of the way through the movie, we have an outsider enter, played by the wonderful Jane the Virgin herself, who, we always love to see her. Good old Gina Rodriguez. And the parents, by the way, are played by Deborah Winger, almost unrecognizable. Now, I haven't seen Deborah Winger in a while, I guess, but they really, dowdied her up for this movie. And then Richard Jenkins plays the father. And so they meet Gina Rodriguez on a plane during one of their scams and sort of make friends with her, and she sort of envelops herself with the family. And all of a sudden, Old Dolio is like, well, screw this. Like, you're replacing me. This is all Old Dolio has known, so she is very threatened by all of this. That's really all I will say, not to give spoilers, but I will say that this was directed by Miranda July, who I am not super familiar with, but I looked her up a little bit after watching this movie, and she's done things like The Future and Me, You, and Everyone We Know, and these are, both other movies that are very, very distinct and bizarre and uncomfortable, and that's sort of her stamp, I guess. Now, this is the first thing of hers I've seen, so to me, this was kind of a surprise in how uncomfortable it was to watch and how quirky these characters are and everything that goes with it. So I have a few positives and a few negatives for this movie. I'm a little bit, like usual, I'm a little bit between the critics being up here and the audience being somewhere in the middle. I'm like in the middle of that kind of. I think the performances here are pretty solid. Gina Rodriguez is great, by the way. I liked her in Jane the Virgin. I thought the movie she did, Miss Bala, was okay. She was like good in it, but it was a pretty average movie. But I always kind of felt like, all right, there is a really good actress in here. She's very likable. Let's see, what she could do. And this is not a starring role for her. Evan Rachel Wood is certainly the star of this movie, but she really brings it as this Melanie character that is sort of, integrating herself with the family. She really is pulling it off. She is likable here, and she needs to be for this character. Because as the audience, at least for me, the first part of the movie before she entered, I was just like, man, I hate all these people. They're all scummy. It's sort of funny watching them try and creep around town and scam people, and it's a little bit humorous in that way that like you just can't believe these people are so pathetic and whatever. But when she enters, it becomes almost a whole different movie, which I kind of liked because I didn't know. I don't know if I could watch a whole movie of just those first few scenes and that vibe, because it is very uncomfortable and bizarre. So I think you do have to know it going into this movie that this is going to be a weird one. This is a weird kind of trip. These are odd people. And where your sympathy lies, I don't know. I mean, and that is almost the brilliance of the movie. It's one other thing that I really liked about the movie is that we aren't really sure who we feel sorry for and who is the real protagonist. I think we can eliminate a couple of people along the way, but it's definitely interesting in that aspect, and that's another thing that I really liked about it is that it's certainly original. It is one of the most original movies I've seen this year, and so I must give it points for that. I think that is definitely a plus for this movie. In the I don't know how I feel about this column, Evan Rachel Wood as Old Dolio, she like drops her voice a couple of octaves. She has this really like almost baritone voice in this movie, and it is so off-putting. And I know that was the point. I know that was the purpose, and that certainly goes along with the weirdness of the movie. But it almost was like, I don't know if you'll remember this, but I'm a big SNL fan, and not Molly Shannon, Anna Gasteyer, years and years ago, 20 years ago, did a character that was like this Lilith Fair comedian, and so she's very like hippy dippy, tree hugging woman, and she had this real like lesbian vibe to her, and she had this very very deep voice, and Evan Rachel Wood, it seems to be doing like an imitation of that type of voice. And so for me, it was almost parody. And of course, she's not in any way, shape, or form imitating Anna Gasteyer in a rare SNL skit from 20 years ago. I'm sure of that. So I'm not saying that that's the case, but it just for me was very off-putting, and I was like, it was almost humorous at times. Like, okay, nobody really is talking like this, and she's, I know she's sheltered too, but she's in her mid-20s, and she is just like a 15-year-old girl. Like, she just doesn't know anything about the world. She doesn't know anything about anything. Like, and I get it. She was sheltered, but still. So that was, I don't know how I feel about that. She was obviously going for something. For me, it didn't work. For others, it might. And then for the negatives, uh, well, even though the originality and the weirdness was a positive, the uncomfortability is certainly a negative here. I didn't really, most of the parts that I think were supposed to be humorous, I was too, like, kind of put off by the characters as the movie moved along. Like I said, the first parts when they were just like doing these little scams, I was like, oh, that's kind of clever. Like, oh, that's funny that they're doing that, whatever. Um, but as we got to know the characters more, I was like, okay, well, now you're just being annoying and you're making me uncomfortable and this isn't cool. And I didn't like feeling that for sure. And then also there is this homoerotic undertone to the movie between the Melanie character and the old Dolio character, and I just didn't think it was necessary. Um, and Without giving spoilers, I don't want to go any more into it than that. But they sort of like are dancing around it this whole movie, and I didn't think it was necessary. And I say this as a gay person, I didn't think it was needed for the movie. I don't think it added anything. I don't think it. I'm not sure if it detracted really, but I just don't think it was necessary. I think that the people in this family are complicated and odd enough that we didn't need to throw more things on top of it. So this movie to me was okay. I don't think it's nearly as good as these critics are saying, but I think that the people in the audience on Rotten Tomatoes that are really bashing it, I think were just unsure of how to feel about their uncomfortability with the material and the weirdness of the movie because it's very weird. But like I said, it is like nothing I have seen this year. That's for sure. And it's one of those movies I think will stick with me. Like, even if I never see it again, 10, 15 years from now, I will be able to remember parts of this movie, and different scenes and different character interactions in the movie. So I can't give it too harsh a grade, for that. I think it's probably like a B, but, for its creativity and for the fact that it is so sublimely original, I will bump it up a little bit. I'll give Kajillionaire a B plus. Again, I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but even if I don't, in 10, 15 years, I will absolutely still remember certain scenes from this movie. And I can't say that. I certainly can't say it about the Croods, probably. All right, so finally we're going to wrap up with Honest Thief. This is another one I actually did get to see in the theater. I did it during my triple feature, but if you're not able to, that's all right because it will be available on DVD before the end of the year. And you could buy it now on Prime Video. You can actually buy all of these now on Prime Video, by the way, or probably anywhere else that you buy movies. But anyway, this is Liam Neeson in another one of his classic action thriller crime type movies. Here he plays this bank robber dude who he's out of the business. He's been out of the business for a while, but he plays Tom Dolan, and he falls in love with Annie Wilkins, who's played by Kate Walsh, who I don't know their ages, but she's got to be at least 25 years younger than Liam Neeson. But anyway, whatever. That's being nitpicky, I guess. But anyway, he's out of the biz, but he loves this woman, and so he wants to come clean. So he calls up the authorities, and he says, "Look, I'm going to turn myself in. I have fallen in love. I want to give you this $9 million back that I stole. So please be lenient. Just put me away for a little bit so I can get back to my life and living it with this woman that I love." So the cops that get sent out to his hotel room to retrieve the money are double crossers, and that's not much of a spoiler because that's pretty much the crux of the whole movie. But they're played by Jai Courtney, and I don't know who the other guy is. Anthony Ramos, maybe? I think that's true. And then Jeffrey Donovan, who you might know from Burn Notice and some other things, he kind of plays one of the chiefs of police, who gets obviously embroiled in all of this too, because of course, he believes the cops and not this criminal dude, and it goes from there. But in true Liam Neeson fashion, he is military. So, of course, that's how he can kick everybody's butt in his late 60s or 70s or however old he's supposed to be in this movie. And, people half his age, he can just crush them because of his ex military background. Classic Taken yet again. Taken, Taken, Taken. We have so many of the Taken movies. Look, this one is better than some of the ones I've seen. The last couple I actually did not care for. Cold Pursuit did pretty well critically, but I did not care for it. And then the one before that, On the Train, which was it called Nonstop? No. Nonstop was on the airplane, which I really liked. I liked that one. The Commuter, I think, was maybe the one on the train. Horrible, horrible movie. This one is a tick up from both of those. And again, I may have been a little biased because I was at the theater for the first time watching a new movie in a long time. And I was like, oh my gosh, what action? Look, the action sequences are fine. Neeson is fine. Everything about this movie is perfectly fine. But we've seen all of it before and done better in Taken and maybe some of his other movies as well. I am pretty lukewarm on Neeson being the action guy in his old age. I think some of the movies are fine, but look, we've seen all of these before. It's enough already with it. Did this one have some twists and turns that maybe I didn't see coming? Yeah, there were a couple. And I can't hate on the movie for that. If you are a huge fan of the Neeson actioners, I think you will definitely find something to like in this more than maybe some of the other ones. Taken obviously is the pinnacle. I think I gave Taken a B+ when it first came out, and there hasn't been a Liam Neeson action movie that has done better than that for me, that's for sure. Most of them end up in the... Well, Nonstop, I think I gave a B. I did really like Nonstop on the airplane. That was good. But that was also, like, one of the first ones after Taken. But then you had A Walk Among the Tombstones, and was Run All Night one of them? Was that the name of the one? I think it was. And then, Cold Pursuit. And then actual Taken 2 and Taken 3. And then The Gray, where he's in the Ozarks or whatever. He's in the Avalanche. They're all kind of the same. And it just depends on your stance on how much Liam Neeson kicking people half his age's butt can I put up with. But like I said, this one is probably a little better than a lot of the recent Neeson output. I will leave Honest Thief with a C+. I think some of the action sequences were fine. Everything about this movie is pretty fine. So, why a C+ and not a C then? I don't know. I guess because of my own personal enjoyment, and maybe that was from seeing it in the theater. If I saw this at home, honestly, it might be a C-. I don't know. But, no, I think a C+ is probably pretty solid for this movie. I definitely think it's, slightly better than average for a Liam Neeson action film modeled after Taken. So that's enough to get it to the plus. And everybody's fine here. I actually, Jeffrey Donovan, it had some, humorous lines. He was sort of the comic relief of this movie, and I liked that. So I think the plus is okay. All right, that's it. This was definitely a mixed bag of movies, but you can get all of them on demand right now, or they'll all be on DVD before the end of the year, except for the Croods. That'll be on DVD early next year because it is so recent in theaters. But that will do it. Thank you so much for watching. Look for more movie reviews in the coming days and weeks because we are wrapping up 2020, so I'm really trying to get on watching a lot of these movies that I missed. And at the same time, there's also a lot of Oscar contenders coming out. So some will be in a standalone review, some will be in package reviews like this, but either way, we'll try and get to all of them. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.